For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. One of Bolivia's largest trade unions announces that electoral observers from Argentina, Chile, and Brazil will help monitor the general elections on Sunday. The announcement coincides with the arrival of delegations from both the Organization of American States and the Union of South American Nations. Bolivian President Evo Morales is seeking his third re-election since taking office in 2005. Polls show Morales with a clear lead and 59% support. That's a 40-point lead over his closest rival, Samuel Doria Medina of the Democratic Unity Party. Over 6 million Bolivians in the country and hundreds of thousands living abroad are preparing to vote this Sunday. If incumbent Evo Morales wins, as polls project, he will become the longest-running head of state ever in Bolivia and will remain in power until the year 2020. As our correspondent David Dortry reports, Morales appears to have increased his popularity during the campaign.
Others who have maintained their loyalty to the opposition say they are not splintered, but rather pursuing different political strategies.
The opposition is not fractured because obviously in a democracy, people have the freedom to decide whether or not to come together.
A win for incumbent President Morales in Santa Cruz would mark a major shift in contemporary Bolivian politics, which are characterized by their strong regional divisions. Reporting from Santa Cruz, David Doherty, Telesur.
And thanks to David Doherty, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff has defended her administration's social welfare programs and efforts to increase minimum wages during her first term in office. Rousseff continued her campaign in the northeastern region of the country Thursday. The Brazilian government estimates that 22 million people have been lifted out of poverty since 2011, thanks to the country's poverty reduction policies. President Rousseff delivered her comments in front of a group of supporters in the Department of Bahia. Campaign advertising will begin again tonight. The two presidential candidates are allowed to resume TV and radio advertisements. And in Mexico, more protests were staged in 64 cities across the country Thursday, demanding justice for the students who were violently attacked by municipal police and masked gunmen. 43 students remain missing. Telesur English's Clayton Kahn continues to follow the latest developments.
Are marked by an environment of an overall narco state.
Incidents of extrajudicial killings and violations of human rights by Mexico's security forces have been a pattern ever since the country unleashed its so-called war on drugs in 2006. For the thousands participating in this march, it is not just an expression of anger and rage for the case of Iguala, but it also represents years of struggle towards state-sponsored violence. Clayton Kahn, Telesur, Mexico City.
And thanks to Clayton, the country of Ecuador continues working to halt the flow of drugs across national borders, and its efforts have so far found success. Our correspondent Liz Sherfia spoke to those heading the anti-narcotics efforts in Ecuador.
Ecuador has experienced considerable success in its anti-narcotics operations. A record 45 tons of drugs have been seized in the country since January, with an estimated 15 to 20 more by the end of this year.
It's hard work what our police do, obviously strengthening daily, as we have done with our intelligence work, cooperation, and information exchange with other countries, here and globally.
Of the $2 billion currently invested in security, a high percentage is now destined for anti-narcotics operations, which have gone to the expansion of intelligence gathering and intensifying training for law enforcement officials.
The three fundamental bases that Ecuador's anti-drug efforts are based on are intelligence production about organized crime, against local organizations that are based on internal consumption, and a big prevention campaign.
Tres bases fundamentales sobre las que se asienta en el Ecuador el esfuerzo antidrogas.
As Ecuador is a country of transit for cocaine and other drugs coming from primarily Colombia and Peru and is not a large-scale producer, the Ministry of the Interior and law enforcement have heightened efforts to stop the flow of drugs from entering and leaving national borders. Liz Sherfias, Telesur, Ecuador.
And thanks to Liz, Thursday Venezuela celebrated the 2-year anniversary of former President Hugo Chávez's 2012 presidential election victory with a concert. During the event, current President Nicolas Maduro announced new policies his government will implement aimed at benefiting the country's younger generations. Here's our Venezuela correspondent Rachel Boothroyd.
You can kill an individual, but not an idea. That was the Venezuelan government's response to the brutal killing of United Socialist Party of Venezuela legislator and youth activist Robert Serra, who became the official face of the country's latest youth mission, launched this Tuesday in Venezuela.
It's a law which guarantees protection for social and labor rights, social security, and income of young men and women workers. It's not like a neoliberal law, which attempts to deregulate and create slave labor.
No es como la ley del neoliberalismo que pretendía desregularizar y crear trabajo esclavo.
Approved following a national consultation process with the country's youth, the law promises to create 200,000 socially productive jobs for young Venezuelans. With a whole host of projects approved for the country's youth, Maduro had a clear message for Venezuela's younger generations. You will be the lifeblood of the revolution on the street against the hate-filled attacks of the right wing. My name's Rachel Boothroyd, reporting for Telesur from Caracas, Venezuela.
And thanks to Rachel, Uruguayan President Jose Mujica has welcomed 5 Syrian families and a total of 42 people seeking shelter from the Syrian civil war. The 5 families were transferred to a new home on the outskirts of Montevideo. Officials say they will enroll in Spanish lessons and will receive courses on local Uruguayan customs. According to local media reports, the adults have already been guaranteed employment. And now we go to Colombia, where President Juan Manuel Santos has reopened the National Council for Peace. It represents the latest development in the country's attempts to end its 50-year conflict that has left at least 220,000 people dead. Here's our correspondent, Charles Parkinson.
Que conllevan el fin del conflicto.
In a ceremony at Bogotá's Casa de Nariño presidential palace, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos officially announced the re-establishment of the country's National Council for Peace. Originally set up in 1998 during an earlier peace process, the council brings together diverse social organisations to discuss the measures needed to establish peace.
We must come together, all the sectors, all of the country, to construct together a pedagogy about the peace process that is received by the whole world, that is received throughout the country, to foster the necessary environment for reconciliation.
The council guarantees a countrywide participation that transcends social sectors.
It'll be a mechanism to open space in the outlying regions, allowing the people to understand that peace is possible and viable in the future.
It is also another arena in which victims of the internal conflict can be heard.
The establishment of this council, where victims are going to have delegations, is another way to guarantee that victims and all social sectors are going to be protagonists in the peace.
It's another step towards peace welcomed by all but the most extreme elements of Colombian politics. The re-establishment of the National Council for Peace is just the latest indication that Colombia really is edging towards the end of a decades-long conflict. Charles Parkinson, Telesur in Bogotá, Colombia.
And thanks to Charles, Islamic State militants have continued their efforts to seize more neighborhoods in the Syrian town of Kobani. It comes as U.S.-led coalition warplanes intensified airstrikes in a bid to stop the radical group's advance. The campaign has so far been unsuccessful as the IS extremists have gained further control of the city. United States Pentagon officials have acknowledged the Islamic State could soon seize the town. The IS militants are already in control of 1/3 of Kobani after U.S. officials have admitted that the airstrikes have failed to detain IS fighters in the mostly Kurd city. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said preventing Kobani's fall is not a strategic U.S. objective. The British government is the second country after the U.S. to announce it will conduct enhanced screening for Ebola among people traveling from countries affected by the disease. UK officials unveiled a $300 million action plan to treat Ebola victims in West Africa. It aims to create 1,000 new treatment beds. More than 500 medical professionals have volunteered to help in Sierra Leone. U.S. lawmakers have approved $700 million to pay for a military mission of up to 3,000 soldiers to help fight the outbreak in West Africa. World Health Organization figures show that Ebola has killed over 3,800 people and over 7,000 have been infected with the virus. Indonesia has pledged to step up protection of ancient cave paintings that, according to researchers, show that Europe was not the birthplace of art as many have long believed. Authorities plan to place the caves on a list of the nation's official cultural heritage and are applying to have them included in the UNESCO's World Heritage List. Among the paintings, there is a silhouette of a hand on a cave wall that is 40,000 years old. In the same cave, a painting of a pig was dated to about 35,000 years ago. The experts protecting the cave say the designs show that Europeans were not the first culture to develop an abstract mind. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.